what is business analysis first? See, if you see business analyst, it's a larger context of understanding that business analysis is all about understanding the requirements of the customer and providing solutions. For example, let's say you are into sales, right? You are into sales and business development. Assume that you people are using a CRM application to manage and to improve more customer experience towards the services what you are about to provide. Okay, so this is what you do this. Now, if you see any process, whatever are we using nowadays, everything was automated because nothing was manual. Okay, now even though you are performing business development or sales or in marketing, whichever the profile we belongs to manage our business processes, we are working on some applications. That's right. We are working on some applications. Now, as this is a technology, this technology requires some upgradation from time to time, because as we are working on the technology, what is needed according to the situation, market demands and all that, we might require to add some new features and functionalities into the existing thing. Understood? Right? If you have any query with respect to the session during the session time, you can ask, right? Please don't hesitate. Now, when we are working on the requirements and all, so wherein what we have to do is we need to understand the business problem first, and we need to provide solutions accordingly. This is what generally a business analysis is. Now, let's say we are using a CRM application for increasing the performance of the customers. Now, this application might require some additional add-ons wherein to increase our performances. For example, wherein with this CRM application, we want to integrate with some ERP, right? Or else this CRM application, we add some new features and functionalities, which is something relating to the health cloud. People who are from the health cloud services, they want to utilize the services of CRM. So different integrations and different add-ons to be made. This is one thing. Or else we might require to develop a new application as a whole, different. So being a business analyst, the job of a BA is to understand the requirements and providing solutions accordingly. This is what generally business analysis is. So in brief, business analysis is all about understanding the requirements and providing solutions to the customer. Okay, this is what generally a BA role is all about. Now, what are the different types of business analysts usually? Because as I mentioned, business analyst role is to understand the requirements and providing solutions. Now, what are the different types of BAs will be there? Normally in BAs will be categorized into three different parts. One is process or operational side business analyst. Second, technical or systems and business analyst. And third, we call it as functional BA. Right? Three different type of BAs will be there. One is process or operational BA. Second, technical or systems BA, followed by functional business analyst. Right? So three different things. Now, what is meant by operational BA? This is the first question. So let me explain you in the Word document so that I'll just write down here. Now, what is meant by operations business analyst? Operations business analyst means who works on the operations of the business process. For example, there is a business process which was laid down, wherein to explain, wherein to make people to understand about the business process. Whatever the operational processes are we performing here. All these things comes under operational BA. Okay, means let's say there is an application called CRM. But I'll give you an example to you. From your side, I'll give you. Right? There is an application called CRM, wherein this application requires some kind of add-ons, because as this is using from long time, But as far as the present situation of the business is concerned, has changed a lot. Now, what you have to do, you have to change and you have to integrate lot many things, right? You have to incorporate lot of information in this. Means you need to add some new features and functionalities. At the same time, you must be knowing about the operational efficiency of the application, right? How it is performing well. Are they able in a position to generate the reports they expect or not? All that things we have to know. This is what generally a business analyst do. The fundamentally the first kind of type of role we call it as business analyst is called as operational BA. Okay, means this individual or a group of people who works on the business process. In other sense, in other way, we call it as business process analyst. Some in some companies, this also will be called as business process analyst. Means who enable and who design the business process of the organization. Okay, now second will be called as technical BA. Who is technical BA? Who works majorly on technology. What does it mean? It means, like for example, you want to develop a CRM application. Forget about Salesforce. Okay? We want to develop a CRM application. Which technology is suitable? What kind of operating system do we require to use? What kind of hardware, software do we require to use? All these things comes under technical aspects of the project. Means it's not only providing solutions for the client, but also we have to make sure what kind of technology should be incorporated in the application. This is what we call it as technical business analyst role is all about, right? Who majorly works on the technology, means what kind of technology do you require. So for that, what is needed? You need to have an idea about the technical aspects of the project. What means, what are the technical elements do we require for the project? Everything should be known to us for sure. This is what we call this technical BA. Technical BA means this person should have a proper as well as sound understanding about the technology. Sometimes, if you go to the next level, sometimes in some organizations, they may have asked, because this statement is not generalized for everyone. Some companies may ask us to know about whether do we have some programming knowledge and testing knowledge or not, right? Which is not that, it's not that we are going to write programming and testing here, but to that extent, if you have, that would be more advantageous for you. This is what we call as technical BA. Third will be called as functional BA. Who works on the functionalities of the project? Of the functionality of the project. This is what generally the major role of a BA plays. Means most of the business analyst opportunities will be lies on functionality. Earlier, if you see, we used to have two kind of business and two kind of analyst. Earlier, in older days, if you see, we used to have two. One is business analyst, second called as systems analyst. This is how generally the positions were. So business analyst used to take care of business requirements, whereas systems analyst takes care of system requirements. Understood. Means this business analyst takes care of, for example, we want to develop a CRM application. What modules do we require in this? Next, what kind of functionalities and non-functional requirements we want to develop. All these things used to take care of by the BA. But whereas systems analyst, which technology do we require to use? Okay, which operating system? Which third-party tools do we require to use? What kind of database do we require? All these things comes under systems analyst. This was the situation in older days. Business analyst as separate, systems analyst as separate. But now, if you see, this is being combined nowadays, and it is mentioning it as business systems analyst. Means both the technicalities as well as the functionalities are required nowadays. Some sort of operationalities also, but both functionalities as well as technicalities are also required. Now, so means it's not only sufficient that knowing about the process of customer relationship management, modules, what in modules were there in this, how to develop and all. This is not only the thing. You must be knowing about how to understand the requirements. What kind of requirements, different requirements we need to gather from different stakeholders. Because if you go and meet a business owner, whatever he expects something is entirely different than end user. If you go and speak to the end user who is working, for example, as you mentioned that you worked on Salesforce earlier as a user. As a user, whatever the limited extent of experience you have, the expectation with respect to the output, his concern is entirely different than others. Because you are a user and you are using Salesforce only to some extent, right? Not for the full extent. But whereas for other people, for example, if you speak to a business owner, he don't ever bother about what features, what functionalities. He always thinks about in what way this application or the solution will be beneficial to me in long run. This is what they see. This is what the difference wherein you have to see from technical to functionality, right? So here, what is required here? We must be knowing about the functional aspects followed by the technical aspects of a BA, right? Nowadays, that's the reason why we were calling it as business systems analyst. The designation in most of the job profiles, I say, because again, it's not the same because there are a lot of BAs again, business analyst in Salesforce, as I mentioned. Some people may mention it as that because they need a business analyst who works on Salesforce process. Means who should have a knowledge about the Salesforce application, right? How to configure it, right? Administrative things. Must be knowing about the validation rules, workflows, right? Objects, issues, all that things. All the things exposure is required for any BA. This is what generally nowadays we see. So nowadays anything, either it's a Salesforce BA or any other business analyst. Nowadays you must be combination of both technology and business analyst. Now, here you may have it out, Raj, as far as the functionalities is concerned, I understand. Because as I'm good in CRM process, sales and business development, I'm well experienced on that. To some extent, how to use Salesforce, what is Salesforce and all, I know that. Then, what is meant by technology and what do I require? This is the point. Technical knowledge, nothing but it's not about programming or it's not about testing. If you have, it's an additional advantage. That's a different thing. But it's not only that. Technical knowledge means you must be knowing about the process of software development lifecycle. This is what we call it as Sdlc. Means how projects will be developed. This is what we call it as software development lifecycle. This experience we must be having. This is what we call it as Sdlc systems. Software development lifecycle means it's not something different or something new to understand. It's a product development lifecycle, let's say. For example, you're developing a product. Right? For example, you're manufacturing your watch. So if you want to manufacture a watch, there are some procedures, right? You'll be having a raw material first. Raw material will be turned into semi-finished good, followed by this finished good, packaging, labeling. Next, you are sending it to the wholesalers, right? This is the process. Means there is a process which is involved in the manufacturing. The same thing applied in application development also. This is what we call it as Sdlc, means software development lifecycle, which explains us about the process of application development. Means what are the different stages of application? There are different stages are there in application. So those stages of Sdlc followed by this, there are different models we use like waterfall model, V model, agile. Because we use waterfall model for some projects, we use agile model for some projects. Depends on the requirements of the customer, depends on the requirements of the, depends on the need of the customer and all that. Whatever the model are we choosing and all, everything will be varying from one another. This is what generally the model is. So identification of models is something very much essential for us to understand. Understood? Clear? We done, right? This is what the overall structure of a BA with reference to business systems analyst in addition to Salesforce is concerned. Now, what kind of skill set do I need to acquire? This skill set, normally we call it as craft skills. Because you may be asking one question, Raj, I'm coming from a sales and business development background. Neither I cannot claim myself that I'm into functional experience, or I cannot claim myself that I'm into technical side. But I have good negotiation skills, sales, business development, marketing. This experience I had earlier. Now, other person, maybe from other person is coming from a technical background. He is very good experience in programming. Now he wants to shift his career to business analyst, right? So people from different professional backgrounds, they wants to transform to BA. This is what the advantage in BA is. You don't see any other profile apart from business analyst in IT. You don't see any other profiles where there is a transformation flexibility, because even a person who is from sales and business development can come for BA. Person who have back-end experience of banking for a long time can come for this. People who have experience on insurance marketing or insurance sales or insurance back-end operations and all can come. Person who work for IT like programming or testing and all, those people also can come for. Person who has pursued his post-graduation, completed his PG management, business management, and who wants to opt for a career in business analyst in IT and all, those people also can opt for BA. So business analyst is that kind of profile, which is combination of all, right? Business requirements, business functionality. Now, you could ask me one thing, Raj, what is required? So what is craft skills is? So the craft skill stands for as follows. One, we call it as communication skills. This is something required for you. So communication is not only a verbal communication, but you must be good at written communication also. Why written communication skills? Because here you need to prepare multiple documents. We need to prepare different documents to understand whoever working on project development. This is what generally we call it as communication skills are. So it's not only verbal communication, you must have some good written communication skills as well. So for this, what normally we do is we prepare multiple documents like BRD, SRS and all that. So whereas BRD stands for business requirements document, whereas SRS stands for software requirement specification. Right? This is what we call it. So these are the documents wherein we have to prepare. So for this, what is required? You need to have some good verbal and written communication skills. This is what we call it as communication skills all about. So followed by communication skills, next is requirement analysis. As I mentioned earlier, whenever you are interacting with stakeholder, you interact with multiple people. You interact with business owners sometimes. We will be interacting with the end users sometimes, right? So everyone. So everybody will come up with their own requirements. Everybody will come up with their own expectation towards the output, what they're expecting. This is what we call this requirements analysis. Means understanding different type of requirements. Understanding different type of requirements. This is what we call it as requirement analysis is all about. Next, F stands for functional skills. Functional skills. So with respect to the BA Salesforce is concerned, what could be the functional skills? Exposure towards CRM is required. Understood? Clear? Right? Are you from Telugu? Veena?
No, I'm from Tamil Nadu.
Oh, Tamil. Okay. Right. Understood? You are understood this, right?
Yeah.
Towards
Clear.
CRM, I hope, right? So means functional skills means you must be knowing about the exposure towards CRM. This is what we call it as customer relationship management. So this process of CRM and all everything is something required. With reference to Salesforce, I'm giving this example to you. Or if you are relating to banking at all, you need to have some exposure towards banking. Or else if somebody is coming from insurance background, they must be knowing about the insurance. Again, in insurance, there are different things. One is health insurance process is something different. Property and casualty insurance, something is different. Life insurance is different, and so on. Right? So functional knowledge is required. Now, apart from functional skills, the next is technical skills required. Technical skills. What is technical skills? Knowledge of application development lifecycle. This is what I told you in the beginning. This is what I told you. Means I have mentioned you about Sdlc, right? Sdlc stages, all that I mentioned. Knowledge of application development life cycle is something required for you to work with. So this is what generally the craft skills one must be good with. Now, here you have a doubt. Raj, communication skills, okay, I'm good because I'm into sales and BD. So written communication, okay, fair amount of documentation skills and all, everything I had. Requirement analysis, because I had experience in managing clients, interacting with the clients, negotiations and all. Okay. So maybe I may face struggle initial days, but that can be settled down. No problem for me. Requirement analysis is also good. What about functional knowledge? Anyway, fortunately, you are coming from sales and business development background, and you need to have some exposure towards CRM. That is something, to some extent, it is required. To more than the next level of CRM requirements and all everything, you required for it. Because there are different types of requirements will be, CRMs will be there. So these are different types of CRMs. I'll just tell you. This is what generally the types of CRMs were all about, like strategic CRM, operational CRM, collaborative, analytical, right? So these kind of CRMs and all everything you must be good with. At the same time, as far as the Salesforce is concerned, there are different type of Salesforce sales clouds will be there. Sales cloud, marketing cloud, community cloud, health cloud, right? Different clouds and all, everything will be there in Salesforce. These are the services. All these were related to CRM because sales CRM, marketing CRM, health CRM, and so on. Because CRM nothing but how are we managing customers, whoever they belongs to. Either he may be a patient for a hospital, or he may be he may be an employee for he may be a customer for a bank, right? Anyone may be. End of the day, how are we managing and what operational efficiency we were increasing and all is what generally we have to see. This is what generally the functional experience which we have to do. So that's the reason normally here what we do here, a case study will be taken. Understood? Case study will be taken. So whatever the explanation and whatever the training we undergo is purely on the case study. Means whatever the CRM related case study, some small, like for example, loan processing is something kind of stuff will be taken. And whatever the training we do in this training, this case study will be an integral part of it. So whatever the practical experiences and whatever the practical knowledge are we imparting to the student, normally it is based on the case study so that the student will understand this much better. Now, when it comes to technical knowledge and all everything, this is a part of the course because we must be teaching them about Sdlc part. We must be explaining them what is analysis, design, implementation, testing, and so on. Next, we need to explain them about the models of software development lifecycle, like waterfall, agile, and all that. Next, you must be knowing about how to write user stories. Because normally in traditional model, if you use waterfall model and all, being a BA, we write BRD documents, BRD, SRS, functional and all that. Whereas when we are working on agile environment, instead of document preparation, we don't have that much time. Hence, what we do is we write user stories. This is the difference. So that will be a part of the course because imparting technical knowledge and all everything will also be a part of it. So this is what generally the communication skills, which is the craft skills, which is required for any BA to understand. Clear, Veena? Understood?
Yeah, clear.
Right. So this is what generally the introduction of business analyst with respect to the Salesforce. As far as the Salesforce is concerned, you need to have an exposure towards different types of CRM, sales cloud, health cloud, marketing cloud, community cloud, and all that. Next, you must be knowing about how to create workflows. You must be well knowledge. Means I don't say expertise because initial inception level I cannot tell you that you must be expertise in it, but at least you must be knowing about how to validate the business rules. At the same time, you must be knowing about how to create the tasks, right? How to create, what are the different record types to be have and all that. So prior to this, you must be knowing about the structure of architecture of Salesforce. Salesforce architecture you must be good with. So first is CRM architecture. So the next, how CRM architecture is different with Salesforce and how it functions. At the same time, you must be knowing some not only about project planning and all, everything. This is a part of it because how projects will be developed in Salesforce and all is a regular part. But apart from that, you must be having some kind of admin experience. Salesforce admin experience is required because some sort of configurations, all that you must be good with. Being a BA, even though we have separate Salesforce administrators as separate, being a business analyst, you must have some exposure towards that administrative configuring skills and all everything should also be there for you. So this is what the introduction of BA with respect to Salesforce. So session is ended. If you have any queries, please go ahead.
No, I'm good. I don't have any query. It was good.
So then, and moreover, coming to the duration part, usually it takes 5 weeks time for me to complete. Right? Because it's all case oriented. Because first of all, what I do is, first of all, I'll cover you the business analysis topics and all. First of all, I have to cover all that. So business analyst concepts, everything has to. What is BA? Why business analyst required? What's the difference between IT BA to Salesforce BA? All that we have to cover. Followed by this, next we discuss about the knowledge areas of BA, because every business analyst must be good with knowledge areas. Knowledge areas like business analysis planning, enterprise planning, what is business case, right? How to define the business case, what points we have to consider. Some practicalities involved. Practicality means I'll give you some assignments. I'll give you some kind of homeworks to you wherein you need to work on it. This is what is required here. So that part will be covered. After that, we start with cloud computing first. Why cloud computing are we using and all that. Then next we go for CRM followed by Salesforce. This is how the structure of the training will be taken into consideration. Understood? Yeah.
Yeah. So it is totally 6 weeks of training, right?
5 weeks usually.
5 weeks.
5 weeks, but it can be landed to 6 weeks because we can't say. Because sometimes what will happen, because some sort of practical experience, practical knowledge is also required. Some kind of case studies we are doing. So it may take time. It may take a week more time. I'm not sure because it depends on student to student, right? So sometimes student will be completing the task very fast, and some students.
So while training, will you be sharing like theories like this, slides or Word document or any?
Yes, I will tell you. I will tell you. So when I'm going to take the training, the communication medium is through online. Okay. The very first thing is what I do is like I'll share the presentations, means I'll show the presentation and explanation will be taken place to you. Right. Point number 1. So these sessions will be recorded. These recording sessions will be forwarded to your Gmail. Okay. Point number 2. Next, it is not suggestible to explain everything on a presentation because there will be some points which we have to explain you in detail. So if I'm going to explain you some points in detail, I cannot show in presentation. That's the reason why I'm using Word document. If you remember, for example, I can present Sdlc and all everything on the screen on the presentation. But sometimes a person who is coming from non-IT background will confuse the same. In spite of it, normally what I do is I'll type something and I'll explain to them so that it have more understanding. So this is what I call it as session notes. Session notes are running notes, whatever it is called as. So these session notes will also be shared to you every day because along with the recording. But session notes cannot be used every day because session notes, if there is anything for me to explain on a Word document, I'll use that day. Otherwise, the remaining times presentation will be shown. At the same time, software will be shown because Salesforce application we have to open. And there we have to show something and all, right? That is also required. So recordings will be there. Followed by this, you have the session notes wherein you can refer this as a running notes kind of stuff. I could say this.
Okay, and while using Salesforce, we need user ID, all those details,
That
right?
can be
So
that can be created.
will you be providing us to work on it, or how is it?
How to means nowadays see cloud trial versions will be available for us. Okay, so we can take trial versions and we can work on that. We don't require any licensed version for that. Trial versions can be taken, but it is for the limited time, 1 month or 40 days kind of stuff. Wherein that is sufficient. As far as the training is concerned, that is sufficient.
Okay.
As far as training is concerned, because those trial versions anyway nowadays it's available Salesforce.
Okay.
It is sufficient to some extent to move further to the next level.
Okay.
That is it. Because that exposure is also required. Because one thing is, for example, let's say banking application, banking CRM application. For example, we were developing a banking CRM application, right? For example. So this banking CRM application you are integrating in Salesforce. You are integrating in Salesforce. Banking CRM application you are integrating in Salesforce. So what you require first? First, you need to understand the requirements. You have to write down the documents. If not documents, sometimes if you are using agile environment, you need to write down user stories. Now, where to write user stories? There is a project management tool called Jira. So you must be knowing about what exactly Jira is all about, how to write user stories in that. Okay. So once you have completed those user stories, these user stories will be incorporated in Salesforce.
Okay.
Yeah. Two sets, right? One is about understanding requirements and communicating. Once the communication has been completed, developers will start doing coding and all that. Developers will do coding and all everything in Salesforce. Backend support of workflows and all everything has to be done by the BA.
Okay.
Whenever it is needed. Too much proficiency and too much technicality of Salesforce is not required for a business analyst. Because see, if there is no other one apart from you in Salesforce in BA in that company, then you will be the main source. So you must be good enough to. You must be experienced and you must be good enough to work as a single BA for the organization. If there were other people apart who knows about Salesforce BA, then you will have less pressure. So it varies. It varies from the kind of project we have, the kind of customer we were managing. At the same time, the kind of experience what we have. It varies from the kind of project, the kind of model we are choosing. For example, if you are using traditional models and all, the approach will be different. At the same time, if you are using agile process, the process is different.